Hello everybody, welcome to week 3 of Tech Tips. This week we are working on, Ray, tell them about it.
It is a Stern Lightning, which is similar to Bally solid states in the early 80s. It's the power transformer rectifier board.
Okay, and what does it do?
It takes voltages from the transformer and converts them to direct current so the electronics can use the voltages. It converts transformer voltages into 5 different voltages on the rectifier board. Some of them pass through as AC, some get rectified with bridge rectifiers to direct current. 12 volts, 5 volts and such.
Okay, and this this board is present on what generation of machines? All machines, or?
It's present on the 80s machines Bally and Stern made. They had 2 versions of the rectifier board. They later changed the name to transformer. Well, this is the transformer rectifier board. They changed the name to auxiliary power supply, but it's a similar board. It mounts in a cabinet like this one. Most of these small ones, except for some Sterns, mounted in the back box. Stern mostly did their rectifier boards in the cabinet. Bally, when they used these small ones, put it in the back box.
So on the modern machine, this is the power supply board.
Right, that's correct. It's equivalent to that, yes.
Okay, well, what are we looking at here? What is this monstrosity?
This is what somebody did that they thought would fix their problem when addressing the bridge rectifiers. These small transformer rectifier boards, unlike the new bigger ones, used small, they were made by a company called Vero, and they're 8 amp bridge rectifiers. This game, like most of these games, draw close to 8 or more amps in some circuits, so those things were really substandard for the use. So you want to put a 35 amp bridge rectifier in a device like this. This guy was trying to do this. He just did it a little peculiar. He used, well, this is 14 gauge Romex household wire, and then he used 12 gauge over on this side.
This looks like the kind of workmanship we see from those guys.
Yeah, that's mostly what you'll see, because they don't have parts availability, and they don't have a truck to go out to get parts. They don't buy parts. They reuse old parts out of machines that might be better than this.
Might be.
Yeah, they avoid buying parts. Alright, well, let's dig in. I'm going to remove the board. It's mounted with 1/4-inch screws. It usually has 3. In this case, I guess the guy did away with them. It's on standoffs. This is a heat sink. To do it, this is the original board had 3 of these little Vero 8 amp rectifiers. Then the guy cut them off, and then what he did was he mounted the 35s on the back of the plate here. Well, actually, one's a 35, and this one, I don't know, it might be a 20. He used what he had, which is what so many of these people do. Even some of the businesses that recondition pinballs or saves, they use what they have. They don't order new parts. They're resistant to ordered parts. I go the other way with that kind of thing. I think, why spend the time and waste it?
Well, we don't send them out like this because we don't want to go visit the.
No, I don't.
We don't want to go visit this machine again for anything more than, you know, occasional maintenance items, not catastrophic failures from using stuff like this.
It is why we pick up all their customers, because they're failed work. But not to dwell on that. What you have to do. This is the new board. This is made by Jim Knight, Rotten Dog product. Comes with a schematic for reference in the future. This is what the new board looks like. Jim went away from the original design, which was substandard anyway, and he kept most of the architecture the same, but he does use 35 amp bridge rectifiers. These are thinner ones, new generation electronics, especially when you're dealing with diodes and capacitors. It often gets miniaturized or small, but they are 35 amp bridges. This one is heatsink because it gets a little hotter. It is the solenoid bridge. But that's what the new board looks like. It will go in place without the heatsink. You clean all this off, and the board has its same mounting as the factory board, and then the next step would be to take the wiring. I have to improve what this guy did here. Take the wiring and go onto the new board. And the new board has little sections where the wires go. And they're marked E12, 10. They're marked the same actually as the Bally board was. You got your E numbers, E11, 10, 12, and those are where the corresponding wires will solder onto. They're through wires, so there's a couple ways to go about it. You can cut wire off. You don't want to cut too much, it makes it too short. You can cut wire off. They're all color coded and they're all different colors, so you can't really mix them up. But it does get confusing if you're doing this for the first time, because you can't really cut one wire and then take the board and solder it on, because you'll be stretching wires across, and it's kind of confusing. So if you cut about a ½ inch off of wire and leave the color exposed, you'll be able to tell, well, this went here. That's the best way to approach this if you're new at this. And when you cut your wire off, you're going to want to well, that's interesting.
What do you got there?
Yeah, it's another handy thing.
What's that, telephone pole wire?
Yeah, that's, at least he used stranded on this, but it's like way oversized. It's 10 gauge wire. Most of the voltages you're dealing with in these machines are low, and the amperage isn't really that high. Wire sizes vary from 18 gauge, very seldom do you see 16, and it goes down to 24 and for switches and such, optos, but most of your power wiring is 16 or 18 gauge. There's nothing bigger than 16 gauge in most of the areas here. So when you run into something like this, you have to replace it. But with this all cut, now I have my wire references to start putting this back in. And you do it one at a time, and then you can hold the board at the same configuration so that you'll see that the red wire will go third fuse over. These are fuses here, you can see, and then here's your fuses. Well, third fuse over there is where that wire goes, and then you just get your right wire color, your red, and match it and solder it on. And that's how you approach this type of thing. Of course, now this is being held on with this guy. Rig thing, I got to take this off, and the main fuse holder has been compromised. It's not really supposed to be. Evidently this guy had one fuse, the main fuse, and I don't know what this was.
I hear he got a job over it.
Yeah, probably. He'll work there until he
They'll send them out on a service call, and he'll take the boards out of the machine.
Never show back up,
and then they'll fire them.
Yep.
And then the customer is going to they'll call them on their 6 lines, and then when they don't get a resolution there, then they'll call you.
Yeah, that's the scenario.
Again.
It's a common
and
scenario.
again.
Yeah, common scenario.
And again.
It's a shame. Yeah, you got to learn from doing. You don't just.
You know, the first time I heard that story, I didn't believe it. But about the 3rd time I heard that story, yeah.
Yeah, it's been more than 3 times. I've run into it and ignored it out in the field. I don't really have time to address that kind of
complaint
from a customer.
Yeah, well, it's not your business.
No.
Their problems with those guys.
Yeah, they do complain. So it's a shame. You got to learn from what you're doing. You don't. If you can't learn and go forward, then you're gonna stagnate and go backwards.
Yeah, well, a lot of these places are just holding on by a thread, and they're just trying to live month to month as they're in the process of closing.
Yeah, it's probably about right. It's a hard business. It's a hard industry. It demands a lot of time for the hours that you get back in labor hours.
Well, and of course, it gets harder when you've already got a ruined reputation. You can't ever get back from that.
No, it's true.
Well, I guess let's cut away here, and you can rip the rest of that wire out of there, and we'll show them how you're going to solder some of the wires on, maybe, if we get to that point.
Okay.
And we'll be back shortly. Okay, Jim. Are you a GRC employee?
No, I'm not.
Why are you here, and how is it that you know Ray?
I know Ray because I started collecting pinball machines back in 1999. He was a customer of mine where I work at Granger, and he came in one time picking up stuff for Game Room Warehouse. I saw he was picking something up for them and got his business card since he was working there, and told him I had a Terminator 2 just in case I needed it fixed, and then just picking up other machines over the years. And initial purchase they wouldn't work, or after time it wouldn't work. Always had him come fix my machines for me.
How many machines do you have?
21.
Would you let anybody else work on your machines?
Oh, hell no.
What about me?
Sometimes. But I always would trust Ray. Ray's great.
So you volunteer here a lot because you enjoy the pinball machines, and I assume you like to learn the ins and outs of what makes them work, and how to work on them yourself, because you don't want to rely on Ray for the basic repairs.
Yeah, I learned a lot from being here, and also just hanging out with Ray at times, and you guys helped me learn a lot, so I don't have to figure out small stuff, bugging him all the time.
But you're a pinball guy, and you're around pinball a lot. What do we do differently here than what you're accustomed to seeing elsewhere?
Attention to detail, making sure everything is fixed and working right. And even gameplay, actually playing the game and dialing it in so it plays the way it should play, instead of just being put back together and not played and tested and made sure it plays fun and smooth. So
there's a benefit to being able to play the games. That way you can you know what where the orbits are supposed to land on the flippers, and yeah, there's definitely a benefit to dialing in a pin.
Yeah, rather than use your hand to throw balls.
Yeah, that doesn't accomplish much. That being said, anyone in the market for a top shelf, attention to detail, fixed right pin, where do they go?
GameroomCollectibles.
And if you bought your machine elsewhere and it's not working, where do you go?
Somewhere that has an orange sticker on it. Oh,
No.
Oh, you go to Ray to get it fixed. WideAreaRepair, absolutely.
And finally, if you insist on paying retail prices for wholesale quality auction junk bubblegum together, complete with a gimmicky 5-year, 5-foot non-warranty, where do you go for that? Oh, see, no, we can't say the name. We're gonna put a picture over that one. We're gonna put the picture over. We're gonna put the firework over top of that. All right, we're back with Ray again. Progress update. What have you done while I was walking away doing something else?
Cleaned this area up so it doesn't look like it was uncared for.
Okay.
Now I'm dealing with the wiring, and I'm not sure I want to really leave spliced wiring because I don't know what somebody did here. They were nice enough to match colors, that's neat. But why did they do that?
Well, you're going to have to look, aren't you?
I got it.
Oh, by the way, we carry this with us at all times. You never know who you're going to encounter out there in this coin-op stuff. You might want to sharpen that, though.
No, I didn't want to cut my finger off. It is sharp. Well, it's nicer than most, sort of.
What are you going to do there, Ray?
Can't leave it there. You got to cut the splice out. So I think
Because if you don't, what's going to happen? The one you don't look at is going to fail, and you're going to be out there fixing it in the field.
Yeah, and
with a stupid those guys look on your face.
This is all going to end up behind this board. So I really don't want to leave it there. The problem with it all is the wiring may be short if I cut off the splices because it's not going to come to all parts of the board. So I'm probably going to have to go back to the transformer tabs and rewire.
Rewire the whole thing.
Yep.
Okay, well, we're not going to watch that.
But normally you won't find this. This is unusual. I have no idea why this guy would have done this, because it is even the same wire. He just cut it for some reason. Maybe somebody cut it. But why did they cut all of them? That's really weird. And if you look, they used the same wire. I mean, they didn't just... all of them are the same.
Factory screw up?
No. No, I don't think so. I've never seen that. Anyway, I'm going to correct that. We're going to go back to the transformer with all of it, and I'm going to rob wiring that came out of a working unit and get rid of the splices. I don't like the splices. And then correct the main fuse. I'll correct that to the way it should be. And the reason to pay attention to this area and dwell on it is it's the main power of the machine. Line cord comes in, goes to the transformer. Transformer puts out voltages. All that this board does is put voltages, and it fuse protects them to the machine. So if this board is substandard, has any kind of problem with connectors that burn up and such, wiring, any issues on this board, your game's going to be less.
It's going to piss off your board, your circuit boards.
Yeah, you could damage your logic board. You're going to lose your flipper power. It's never going to be right because you're dropping voltage as you go along with wiring like this. So you want to correct it. It's kind of an advanced project for homeowners to do, but if you see something like this in your machine, you're going to want to put...
Well, I got news for you, Ray. It's not just homeowners that are watching this video. There's a guy up the street that's watching this video as soon as I post it. And, you know, I don't expect that he's going to ever start doing this kind of work, but at least he can see what it is.
Well, I'd hope people such in that position would find out and learn from it. Learning denotes intelligence. Simple as that. If you just make fun of somebody's effort to replace parts with new parts, then you've not learned anything, and that doesn't denote a step forward. Without dwelling on it, you got to learn from it. And if you don't, I'm going to go out on the call and I'll find you out.
Yes, you will.
Because the customer wants it to work, and he don't want it to work after you leave and break again. He wants a permanent fix.
And you don't care how many phone lines you got either.
No. No, bad work will crowd somebody's business up. You've got to do the right thing, and especially considering parts are available. I mean, maybe I could understand if there wasn't any parts available, but what would you actually want to do with this?
I know what I want to do with it.
It's got a burned up fuse holder. The circuit board is shot. The traces are lifting. All the headers here, the 156 pin headers, they're all shot. And I'm surprised somebody put a new resistor on.
Well,
it.
you know, there's somebody out there. They take great pride in reflowing the solder on that. Why would you do that?
Because you don't want to buy a new part. I have 5 of these on my truck.
5.
Yeah. I replaced these. In fact, I've used 5 this year so far, and it's only July. I do one every 2 or 3 weeks.
Every time you encounter a machine of this age,
There's a lot of these
that you haven't encountered, you know, that you haven't worked on before, or hasn't been through our shop.
Right, there's a lot of them. People like these 80s machines. They're kind of fun in their own way. They're not complicated like a newer pin, and they're just straightforward fun pinball, and that's what it's really all about. You know, Stern and Bally, well, Stern copied most of Bally, but in these days here, you know, Bally made a lot of these machines.
The board in your hand is identical to a Bally? Identical?
Identical, yeah. Stern had their name put on it.
Yeah.
And they call it a T100 to
Probably came from the same place.
yeah. Yeah, they had the same manufacturer. They did some minor things to avoid copyright infringement, but if you compare it to a Bally board, it is identical. There's no change. Nothing different on it. They might have moved a resistor in and called it something different, but regardless of that, this board fits Bally Stern, and it's called a power supply rectifier board. Some people call it a transformer rectifier board because it feeds right from the transformer.
And that's available from Marco, I would assume.
Marco doesn't do Jim Knight's products anymore. He comes out with his own
Okay, so
pin score products. Arcade
similar,
shops, Bay Area arcade shops, little shop of games. Yeah, there's all the mainstream. Yeah. There's also another brand out that I like as well, and it's called Pinhead, and they're starting to make stuff like this, and they're nice products. They have LEDs on here to tell you whether a fuse is blown or not. It's really neat.
neat.
Yeah, and they make both products. They make the big board as well as the little ones.
And they're affordable. That's the cost of that unit is superseded by the amount of time it would take you to recon one of the old ones anyway.
It's well under $100.
Yeah. Now, unless you're a hobbyist and you got 4 or 5 hours to throw at that old board to be left, you know, what are you going to do? Replace everything on it? You know.
No, some of the tracing is burned off. It's not repairable. No, it wouldn't be worth saving. No. And why would you for the price? Plus, you're saving something that was never designed right anyway.
Well, I'll show you what we can do with that later after you get your wire references off of it.
Yeah. They put small bridge rectifiers, which were substandard for the use of the machine. I mean, you know, they did what they could do to get production going. They really didn't investigate a lot of the stuff. Technology has taught people learning things off of what didn't work to make something better.
Well, and that's what we do on a daily basis here, and you on the road. You know, we don't claim to know it all, but
no, it's a learning process. It'll go on. You don't ever stop learning. And a new procedure or a new part comes out, you learn what it is. If it's better, more efficient, if it makes sense, you do it. You don't dwell on anything old. You don't attempt to reuse old products, old parts. It's a dead end. It just causes you more work.
Well, you know,
Doesn't provide reliability, period.
I don't think we're going to sit through the rewiring process of this whole mess. It looks like.
No, and I want to do it because I don't want to leave this in. I don't really care much when I see stuff like that.
So I guess we're looking at probably an hour and a half worth of rewiring there.
Yeah, right. That's about right. Yeah, I don't want to leave that in. I really don't. The guy at least soldered it. I give him that, but I have no idea why he cut it.
Okay, well next week we'll we'll show you the wrap up of this job, and
Yeah, the finished product.
we'll take some photos of it soldered to the new board and all that
Right.
as a lead into what do we feel like doing next week? Something interesting.
I think next week we're going to get into flippers, because that's a core product.
Flippers?
Yeah, that's a core device in the machine.
As a player, I hate a weak flipper.
Yeah, and there's a lot of aspects to it, but we're going to get into flipper angles, shaft play, hubs, and basic parts, and things that you can recognize that are going to wear out and that should be done to make the game better.
Okay, very cool. Thank you, Ray. Thanks everybody for watching. Oh, if you haven't seen the See Which playfield, thanks to Felix. No paint pens here. Looking forward to having this one done, Ray.
It's a nice machine.
Get to work.
I like it.
See everybody next week. Thanks a lot.
Nice. Thanks for watching.
Hi, we hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't already subscribed, what are you waiting for? Want to know what's coming next? Go like us on Facebook right now. You can keep up to date with all of us here at the shop and what we've been up to. Thank you for watching.
Join the circus.